everybody, welcome to Wingtalk. Once again, we're doing the show. This is live in 2023. We've had a great new year start, and this is going to be a fantastic year. So I'm looking forward to getting started and introducing our guests today. But before we do that, we're going to talk to some of our old-time favorites here. I was just going to say a quick hello to Mark Hoffman. Mark, you're not feeling so great today, right?
Yeah, my voice is still not what it is supposed to be. I had some sickness over the last weeks and still coughing a lot, so bear with me when I'm not talking that much this time as I usually do.
Okay. Well, it's great seeing you, the pilot in charge. So you just hang out in the background, make sure we all look and sound good, and we appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks.
Awesome. So, okay. Let's not forget one of our favorites from the UK, Mr. Darren Lyons. Darren, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I think Mark's going to have his work cut out trying to make us look good, but, you know, it should be a fun show.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I got up this morning and watched your video. It was only up for about 47 minutes by the time I got to it. Excuse me. And, it was a great video. It was talking about why your control surfaces may not look like they're moving super much when you first get your plane set up.
Yeah, and obviously I used a very nice example of a glider in that video just for a certain someone.
Yeah, I know you were working long and hard on it yesterday. You've been working a lot lately too, right? So this has been kind of a big month for you.
Yeah,
hey, Luke.
Just started.
Hello.
Luke, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, all's good here. Got a bit of flying in today, but very, very wet. I was absolutely soaked through.
So I'm noticing how clean your background looks.
Mine?
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, no, I've got loads of rubbish in my background. I've got some Phantom 3 converting one to INAV and one to RG Pilot. A helicopter.
What did you say? Did you say the A word? Mark, come off the show.
No, didn't say that.
I don't know.
I thought it was bad enough there was a quadcopter, let alone RG Pilot.
I did have to hide mine with a wing.
So we get involved in a lot of good stuff. Oh, so it's raining over there?
Yeah, it's been raining pretty hard today, but yeah, had to get some flying in. So
yeah, you got some flying in the rain. Is that what you said?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Well, the rest of the week it's been raining and windy, so in comparison, it looked pretty good today, I guess. So
yeah. We've had rain in Southern California for like the last 3 weeks. Everyone always complains, like, to come out here for the summertime and everything's dead. If you want to come right now. Now, speaking of beautiful places in the United States, one of my favorite places I went to this past year, a little state called Ohio, the birthplace of aviation. And from there, we do have Tim. Tim, how you doing? From Radio Made RC.
Great. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. It's good seeing you again.
It is good to see all of you as well. Not the best flying weather right now in Ohio, but, it's winter, so what can we expect?
Is it snow on the ground yet, or?
This winter's been kind of weird. It gets cold and then warm and then cold and then warm. So, we were down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in the real measurements that you guys all like to use.
Cold.
And then, yeah. And then I think we're going to be back up to like 55 tomorrow, but rain. So, it's a roller coaster. Central Ohio, where we are, is kind of strange. We don't get a lot of snow. It's generally just rain and then freezing and then, just ugly brown and gray all the time. So not sure why I live here, actually.
55 and rain that's Luke flying weather, sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, I was messaging you yesterday, and you said you were going off to a wedding.
Yeah. For those
Who gets
that
married
know,
in Ohio in the middle of winter?
I don't know. It's kind of crazy. For those that know Ryan, that used to work for me, he just got married after we've been giving him a hard time for dating Jesse for like 17 years. So it's about time they finally got married. But I'm going to give them some grief about that. I figured I wouldn't do it on their wedding day, but maybe after the fact.
Okay, well, it's the day after the wedding day, so
yeah. So
congratulations. Congratulations to Ryan and his beautiful wife.
Yep,
fantastic. And so Ohio, so that is really was out there over the last year, and it is really, I'd say it's like one of the most ideal places probably to go flying at. It was just, I was there like in September, so it was a beautiful time of the year there. And most
of Ohio is very flat, a lot of farmland. You get to southeast Ohio, you start running into the Appalachians, so you start getting more hills and more heavily wooded and stuff. But we tend to have pretty good flying around here most of the time. Definitely, perfect. I would agree.
So when we had you on the first time, it was, and we had this year like around 2020, 2021, where we were talking about planes we couldn't get. So we had a nice conversation with you about all the planes you couldn't get for us. And
here's all the things I wish we could get, but we don't have. Yeah.
So, and over the last, say, 3 or 4 months, that's changed, right?
Yeah. So finally, after all the craziness from pandemic and everything else, we've got our planes, a bunch of other planes in. Over the course of about the 3 months, over the last couple months of last year, we had 3 shipping containers coming from overseas. So it's a lot of planes. So everything from our Strix planes to to some stuff from XUAV and Sonic Model and Zod and Skywalker. A lot of stuff came in. So finally reloaded with some planes. It's nice to have things to actually put on the shelves and sell and fly again.
Being from the UK, I don't really look on the Ready-Made RC website. There's extra shipping costs and that kind of thing too often. You have everything in stock. You have absolutely everything in stock.
Except for Sky.
Except for what? Yeah. We need to buy some more for Sky. So, but so when it comes to planes.
Yeah, you've got all the Goblins. You've even got like the Anaconda. You've literally got everything. I might have to do like a big order.
There
or
you
something.
go. Time to shop. We actually have FedEx has a new shipping method that is meant for e-commerce. That's more reasonable. I've seen Nano Goblins now go. It seems to vary pretty widely around the world, but I've seen them going to like the UK or just had a Nano Goblin going to Austria this week, and it was only like $25-$30. And it's almost as fast as regular FedEx Express International, and their brokerage is prepaid, not the customs duties and stuff. But, one of the complaints a lot of people always had with FedEx International was their brokerage fees. But this actually includes the brokerage fees, too. So, So, I mean, it still gets really pricey when you get the bigger planes. I mean, it's the dimensional weights. You can't do much about that. But they're better than they used to be, honestly, some of the shipping prices. So. Yeah. UK has some weird import rules. So we do have, that's like the only country in the world that we have a minimum order size. It's because they changed the rules like a year and a half ago. It's really strange. You got to, if it's under 135 pounds, we would technically have to register and prepay all your VAT and duties and everything. It's really strange. So we just set a minimum price and still goes the old school way.
Yeah, countries run by wankers, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know if it had anything to do with the Brexit stuff or if they just decided they were missing out on all these small items. It's really strange. It's the only country in the world that has that rule.
I think it was more to make it look like they're doing something to tackle overseas tax evasion.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
Instead, they hit the small companies rather than the big ones who can still get away with it exactly the same as they have been for years. So.
Now, wasn't the EU having a problem with this as well? Because I thought that was one of the reasons why Banggood isn't doing so well right now is they have some new regulations coming for the EU.
It's the way they handle it is different. They still have the same sort of VAT requirements, but as far as I understand, the way that they handle goods coming into the EU is different. goods aren't, you don't need to register with the individual companies' tax offices, for example, where you do with the UK, which is ridiculous.
Really strange. Yeah.
Question for Tim in the chat right now. Since from MPS Ares, since Ready-Made RC has the MFD Nimbus on pre-order, any chance you will have the MFD Mini Crosswind available as well?
We could get that. Actually, I need to change the tag. We put that as pre-order. We got some. We're out of them. We are getting some more, so I guess we can still call it pre-order. But so the Mini Nimbus as well. We actually are getting in an order. It's not going to go till after the Chinese New Year, but yeah, we'll check into that. We buy those kind of indirectly through one of our companies. They buy them for us and put them in the containers with our other planes. Yeah, definitely. I can look at that. Those the ones we got in the last batch sold pretty fast, the full size. So we'd like to get some more of the stuff from them in general. I know that they've always done well.
I know people don't want to hear me just like talking about the planes I can find on your website, but you even got like an X8 in stock.
Yeah, those were out for a long time. Yeah, those were those have been really hard to get, and finally,
I literally haven't seen an X8 in stock in years, and I've looked. You know,
it's a really that manufacturer is very difficult to communicate with. Okay. And same thing, we actually worked through one of our other companies, and they handled it since they can communicate more easily with them, and managed to get us some. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? You're looking like, wait, that's in stock too? That's in stock too? We're kind of thinking the same thing. We walk back and see all the boxes stacked up. Yes.
So without me needing to look on your website, have you got the 1.3 receivers?
We still have the 1.3 receivers.
Right, so Luke, if you are going to order something, I might tag something onto that order.
Yeah. We, we're working, ours are made a little bit different than a lot of the other ones, specifically so they work well with UHF control. We are trying to grab what you can because we're actually some components are end of life, and we are working to try to find alternatives, but we're having a bit of a hard time. So the performance, we're going to do what we can to keep them where they are, but that specific feature of those, the tolerance of dealing with UHF systems relatively close by, we're a little bit concerned.
Mark, I hate to put you on the spot. Is it possible you can throw up the Ready-Made RC website so we can start talking about some of the models?
I would probably go to the there's a planes relaunched category that kind of has all the stuff.
Yeah, so Mark's giving a grimace in the background, but he's getting to work on it, so it's awesome.
Yeah,
put him on the spot.
I will open it.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate that because I want to go through the planes and talk about it. The one thing I want to say, though, before we get into that is that, it's kind of the same thing. What we have with you, the same thing we have with Chris Click, with Right Wing, which is, we're trying to support the vendors who, especially the people who've had a really hard time getting their stuff in stock. Now that's in stock, this is the time to show up and start ordering models. So
yeah, it's funny. We just sold last of one of the Right Wing planes, and it was this week. And literally within like half an hour, Chris messaged me, "Hey, you going to be reordering some planes again?" I'm like, what are you, spying on us? It just was a coincidence that someone had asked him about another part that we didn't have in stock from him. If you go to the shop categories in the top left and drop that down, and then choose the planes relaunched right below, you're right there. It's like
right there. I'm about right there.
That's like basically all the stuff that we've recently got in. So
let's talk about them one at a time. The Strix Goblin FPV. That was Darren. You have love for that plane, so tell us about that.
Oh, it's a great plane. It's such an efficient plane. That's the thing. The thing that I really like about it is, most of these cruisers, you're cruising about 30-40 miles an hour, which I get bored with, to be quite honest. So I like a bit more speed, but the Goblin, you can cruise pretty efficiently at sort of 60-70 miles an hour. It's such a nice, drag-free airframe, and it handles very well too. So yeah, great aircraft. And the Nano is just as nice, to be honest. I really need to build mine still. Yeah. great planes.
Strix Goblin. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that one's kind of a heavy plane though, isn't it? When you get it together.
We have it can be. We have actually two options now. We're doing, instead of plug and plays, we actually have ARFs with all the parts, and we have a lightweight version, and then a higher performance version. A lightweight version just has a smaller motor, smaller ESC, lighter weight servos, but I mean I always say that one's needs to be for a not necessarily fully advanced, but someone with some good experience flying. Because it's going to go where you point it, and it's going to go there fast. And launching is a little bit more difficult for some people if you're not used to having to really chuck a plane and not, flip it over and stuff.
Yeah, it does need a good launch, that plane. That's the only real downside about it. I mean, mine, I guess, is reasonably heavy. I sort of stick a 3300 4S in it, and it's all stock. So it's the Cobra motor that came with the original. So I guess probably about maybe 1,000 grams, 1.2 kilograms, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's pretty light.
Once it's in the air, you don't notice the weight at all. But it is quick. It does land quick. So yeah, experience, it really does help with it. But it's fantastic.
You mentioned how it cruises. I mean, that's where landing is can be a challenge for some because it has no drag. So it doesn't want to slow down.
You have to chop the throttle a long time before you want to come in.
Yeah.
And
then you still land hot.
Yeah.
Looks like it could take pretty big batteries, and it looks like it'd be good for mid-range to long-range FPV, or somewhat long-range FPV.
Well, definitely can be. We had that you see that banner on the bottom of the time, distance, speed, where we did a competition for people for basically how long can they fly, how far can they fly distance-wise, and then and cumulative distance, and then top speed. That Rupert White got the speed record on that, 256 miles per hour. I can't remember what that works out to, kilometers.
Jeez.
But, let's see. That works out to
320-ish something.
411 kilometers per hour.
Yeah,
that's
see, I
the
don't know
speed
kilometers.
turbine jets fly at that speed. That's insane.
Yeah. Now his was pretty far from stock, but if even you look, second place was 217 miles an hour. Third place was 180. I mean, because it's so efficient, you get power on it, and it takes a little bit of reinforcement when you're going to do that. But yeah, it's super slick. And we had the record for distance, cumulative distance was 93 miles. So
wow,
it's definitely it can be a long range plane.
So Luke, there's a competition here. Somebody has put up a speed record on this plane. It sounds like it's up to you to challenge that.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
If Rupert's done it, he's usually pretty good. I'm not sure there's much left on the table for me to get.
He really. We've had a couple people saying they're going to try to beat him, but that's going to be a challenge.
Exactly. Rupert's no slouch.
No. Rupert knows how to fly fast.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
I mean, I'll certainly give it a go, but I wouldn't expect to beat it.
No, I mean, from what I remember, he had a complete carbon fiber rear end that was custom made, running the Leopard in runner.
Motor on it.
Yeah, it's a big old Leopard in runner. Well, actually, Luke's got the in runner, so he's already part of the way there.
That's and are you using you switched over from Cobra to the Sunny Sky motors as well, right?
Well, and it's kind of we offer the options. In the case of the two options on that, they are both. Oh no, one's the lightweight one is an Emax. It's essentially a quad motor, and then the high ultra performance one is a Sunny Sky, through the V3 series. A lot of weird stuff happened with Cobra, and we were working directly with the manufacturer in China, and then they just disappeared. And some weird politics involved with that, I think. And so they sort of exist, but it's not the same company anymore. But yeah.
So Tim, you wanted to talk about we didn't prep before the show. Your relationship with Dale.
Yeah, Dale over at Buddy RC. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're local. They're a half hour away from us, and we we work with them. They wholesale some of this stuff, like the Sunny Sky motors. So we work with them on that, and we've even worked with them bringing stuff over from China together and stuff. Good bunch of guys over there.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet him last year, and let's say it in my daytime job, I had to go over there, and they were sitting down with a bunch of old FR Sky radios, and they weren't very happy. We walked in, and there was 3 of them sitting there. Right, it was Dale and Dan and and
probably Eddie.
Eddie, yes, Eddie. Yep. And so Eddie's the FPV guy. So I'm like, man, we drove all the way to Columbus, Ohio, just to have our butts reamed out by these guys, and they were kind of like, within a couple minutes, we pull out the X20 radio, and Dan starts playing with it. He starts giggling. This is so fun, and they are such a great bunch of guys. I mean, really, really impressed me. Dale is just real nice guy, genuine nice. Yeah. So I know you guys were talking about coming out to the there's a Toledo show.
We might do that this year. Yeah, I know they will be, because they have some of the Ohio Model Products stuff that they work with, that they'll be up there for that.
So right now it's on my agenda to come out and see you guys, and so fantastic. But yeah, the reason that I knew Dale, I was a customer of theirs, I didn't know it, is because Sunny Sky USA is Buddy RC, or that's one of the little divisions they have. And since, that is a place where you can get legitimate Sunny Sky motors, and that's one of the bigger issues I think we run into, is there's a lot of fake Sunny Sky motors floating around coming out of China.
Yep. Yeah. It's always tough to know, if you're not sure you're talking to the manufacturer or main distributor, it's tough to know you're getting the good stuff. So we know they are, obviously. Yeah. He has a good relationship with them.
But the thing is like, you can kind of, like, we know you, and it's just kind of like, once you start to know the people in the industry, there are some people there are a lot of nice people in the industry, but there's just very few people who are like, wow, this is a really great outfit. So Buddy RC, you obviously,
thank you.
Chris over at Right Wing, and just your people that really stand out and promote the hobby. So that's really one of the main reasons we like having you on the show, is because you really, you're behind the hobby more than anything else.
Well, I kind of equate it with there are people who are in the hobby business because they've enjoyed the hobby business and just wanted to be a part of it. And I think a large number of the businesses are like that. And then there are some that are probably in it more for the money. They saw some money opportunity and maybe don't care as much. But yeah, definitely, like you said, Dale and the guys over at Buddy RC, they're in it because they love it. Same with Chris and lots of other people out there. I mean, there's the good guys in the industry, and they're definitely some of the best.
And I always notice the good guys in the industry are the people who actually go out and fly. Who actually
right. Yeah. Yeah, they enjoy flying themselves, not just trying to sell a product. Exactly.
Right, exactly. So can we go back to that? And let's go down to the next plane on the list there. I want to see, we talked about the Goblin, the full-size Goblin. There's the Nano Goblin, I think was the next one on the list.
Yep, Nano Goblins.
That one is I've actually flown that plane. That thing actually handles wind very well. It's kind of an impressive little plane.
People are surprised when they see how light it can be, but yet how you can just go fly in weather that you would normally, a lot of us wouldn't want to fly a lot of other planes in, especially something that light. You'd think it would just blow away. But yeah, both the Goblin and the Nano Goblin were designed by Cavan out in California. We're actually working with him on another plane, possibly.
Wow.
Can't say much about that. But
you heard it here first.
Yeah. But yeah, his designs are incredible. He's very meticulous about he likes to really understand what's going on with the aerodynamics of the planes and stuff, and it shows in how these planes fly. And they're two definitely distinct designs, the Goblin and Nano Goblin. Although they're both planks, the Nano Goblin was really designed a little bit more for being a slower flyer, lightweight. It can fly fast, but it's designed to stay light and slow, and you can fly that. I think I always say the Nano Goblin's good for people that are kind of want to fly like quad flyers a little bit, because you can fly down and under obstacles and low, and and it doesn't break as easily because it's so light. So you wind up, just bouncing off of things, and you get to relaunch it. So yeah.
So am I the only guy here that's flown this plane? Have anyone else here flown this?
Oh, the Nano.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had one. Well, I've had mine broken for years.
We've got parts now.
They do break. They do break when they're coming in a bit too low, a bit too fast.
You can break them, but it's foam, so a little bit of foam tack or something like foam tack. Usually they're back together. So.
Yeah, but I've got a new kit that I'm going to build out for a light one, and that one I was maybe going to try and go for something a bit faster.
I have to say this cave
Oh.
flight video here is pretty crazy. I've not seen that before.
It's funny. I think that was Ryan that actually did that flying back when they did the cave event for the quad racing. The advantage of that cave is that there is zero wind in there. So, think about how much that makes, how much easier. You're not fighting the bouncing and stuff you'll get from that. But yeah, just to fly a plane in such a small space like that. Yeah,
I can't believe how well they're flying with such bad video. But
oh yeah, it is really bad, isn't it? Yeah, that's
this is incredible.
Flying through the static. We've all done that, right?
yeah. This is just like constant static.
Yeah. Not the best RF conditions there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's one guy we have in the group. It's like the first year we had him in the group. He went up to the Matterhorn, not the one at Disneyland, but the actual real Matterhorn Visitor Center, where you park your car and go look at the Matterhorn from the comfort of miles away. And he took this plane up and he flew it to the top of the Matterhorn, and it was kind of impressive.
I saw a video. I don't know if I saw the same video. I saw someone do that. I feel like that was with the Goblin, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
I thought it was the Goblin.
No, it's a Nano.
It was a Nano. Okay.
It was, he got out of he told the story, he got out of his trunk and, at the visitor center, he just took off, put his FPV gear on, and he just took off and he flew to the top of it, gets to the top, then he goes down the face of it, just like straight down. And I guess it was a GoPro, and he stabilized it. It was like the most mesmerizing video ever. Really impressed with that.
It wouldn't have been a GoPro on a Nano Goblin.
Yeah. It would like weigh as much as the whole plane. I think it might have been one of those Insta360 smaller ones.
Or a Run Cam 2.
Or it might have been a Run. Yeah, it could have been.
Run Cam 2, yeah. It was something, it was a couple, I think it was like 2019 when this happened.
Oh. Yeah, it has been a couple of years.
Yeah, and it was just like, you look at this video and you're like, wow. I mean, I guess the best part of all is when he was done, he just put it in his trunk and took off,
Little tiny plane, you don't even hear it, see it. People probably didn't even know it was there.
That's
they are so quiet. They are really quiet.
And the other thing about them is that that's a plane that, I mean, it seems like everyone falls in love with the Ranger or the smaller plane, the He-Wing planes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a plane that's a proven platform. And this thing is, now that it's back in stock, this might be like the plane this year for people to start playing with. And, because they're not horribly expensive. It was like $129 to get the ESC, the motor, and the plane, right?
The 129 is, let's see, I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's with the actual, I didn't realize my developer actually fixed that. It used to show, kind of threw me off. It used to show the price of just the plane by itself until you went into the plane. So yeah, 128. And that's, again, we did something, we tried something new when we got these, and we did kind of these choose your electronics ARFs. So in the case of the Nano Goblin, you can choose your motor and ESC, you can choose your servos. So the price can change depending on what you go with, but the default option is $129. That's all the stuff, and you can get the glue if you need it and all that. So, but yeah, it's the Nano Goblin for me is still my favorite plane. I think partially because it's just, you grab it and go. It's quick. You just throw a battery in and it's ready to go. You don't have to assemble it. You don't have to try to fit it anywhere. It can, fit in, I've seen people put them in backpacks. You got to be kind of careful of that, but, maybe strap it to the back of a backpack or something and just go with it.
Little vacation plane, then, is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Perfect for that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's always been the problem is, now that our cars are smaller, especially in Europe, you get a lot of smaller cars, except for Darren. He has like the 68 Camaro or something like that still. But we have these smaller cars, and, you know, if you're like my family, it's like everything gets packed into the small car, and you get like about half a foot to put all your FPV stuff in there. Or you got to put it under your feet or something like that when you're driving. And so, yeah, this is, it's nice to have a small plane like this so you can kind of fit in the tight spaces and take with you. So fantastic. What's the next plane on the list here, Mark? I think it's the Stratosurfer. Mark's like, no, I throw him off. Sorry about that, Mark. So we'll get back to you in a second.
Oh, good. I'm bringing it up. No worries.
Okay. Yeah. Just kind of. These are all, it's kind of fun because we haven't seen these planes in a long time. So, oh, there it is. Look at that. I know this plane.
Look at that. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, that great article you just posted, right? I think you just made that live yesterday.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, Stratosurfer was kind of based off of the Sky Surfer / Bixler / any of those like pusher style planes. But we kind of took the things that that we either modified on the other planes or things that we wanted to do on the other planes. You know, gave it more flat aerobatic wings. They're still pretty stable. You know, still can function as a trainer if you want it to, but also can fly a little bit more performance. You know, a lot of room inside with the blow molded fuselage. You know, we kind of evolved that. You know, took the ideas from those other planes and made it our own, essentially. So,
yeah. All right. So this plane, blow molded fuselage. Mark, you go back to that one, that orange fuselage.
Is there any access into the sides of the fuselage?
The sides?
Yeah, you know, like often when you're building a Bixler or an Easy Star for FPV, you have to like cut into it.
No, you can. I mean, you can go straight in. You can go from the wing area, which you can just barely see at the top of the picture there.
Oh,
or
yeah.
you can go straight down.
Good.
So,
okay.
And there's actually a platform back there for flight controllers and stuff. You can just see the edge of it.
That's loads better than like the Easy Star then, because the Easy Star.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, first of all, there's a nice platform there at the top, and it goes right under the wings, and you can put all your stuff. This is probably a good opportunity to put in something like a Maytech wing board where they have the remote USB connections, so that you can have the flight controller hidden away, and then you just have you pull out the USB port whenever you need to get into INAV. That fuselage is really insane. I mean, that blow molded plastic, because I've had the Ranger. This is kind of my forte. I like these planes. The Ranger also has a fuselage, but it's nothing like this. It is a much thinner plastic. This is, I mean, you can hurt people with this fuselage. It's so thick. Yeah.
Well, we actually at events a couple years ago, we actually had like a contest. Essentially, used the fuselage of the plane as a wiffle ball bat, and we're having people hit wiffle balls. I don't know if you guys have the same thing over in Europe. You know what that is? Just the plastic, lightweight balls, and having them hit while through FPV video, they were hitting the balls off of a tee with the bat or with the fuselage, and it went through everyone using it. Of course, it got a little bit dinged up, but survived.
Yeah, and there's loads of space in there for putting huge batteries. So this is an interesting little plane. The flat wings on that make it something that flies a lot different, I feel, than a Bixler does. A Bixler kind of floats around and kind of meanders around. This thing just goes from point A to point B perfectly straight. And so this is more like a traditional tractor-fed plane than a regular plane, than a Bixler-style plane. So if you want to have something where you want one of these planes, but you don't want to have something that's too floaty or something too slow, this is absolutely a great plane for that.
Yeah, And Steve, you built it. You not only took what it was, but then you painted it up. You put film on it. Like you really took it to the whole next level with your build too. So,
thank you. Yeah, that was. I wrote about that. I kind of talked about how what I used to paint it, and you don't need to paint a lot of it because the wings, the fuselage is already finished. So all I had to do was just kind of match the color scheme of orange and gray. And but I took this thing out to the beach. This was a couple days before Christmas, and it was the last really nice flying day in Southern California. Put in a 5,200 milliamp 3S battery. I was up there for about 37 minutes, I think. And it was just a gorgeous day on the beach. And I was flying down to the pier on one end, all the way to the jetty on the other end. And I mean, I was turning this plane like every 4 or 5 minutes because the ones were so long. And, you know, it's a plane that kind of really just likes to fly straight. And the turns are perfect. There's no problems with it. But this is just nice plane to just get out and cruise with. And
it's a good therapy plane.
Yeah, really is. I wrote something about INAV therapy, and I used that with this plane. I was just kind of, I had a couple rough days right before Christmas, and really wanted to have a real nice, get the FPV goggles on and just get lost in the flight. And that was what this plane did. So really impressed with it. It's definitely, I have big slurs. I love big slurs and the Rangers. This one is a different plane altogether, I think. Next one is the Anaconda, it looks like. So we haven't seen that one in a long time. Tell us about this plane.
So that one, that one is, it has been around for a while, and that's kind of the more traditional, what people think of as a drone, and it looks like a military drone. With the landing gear, then you get that whole different experience of, taking off and landing, traditionally, I guess you'd say, instead of all these, we're kind of all used to these hand launch planes, but massive amount of space inside. So you can, put whatever you want, carry payloads. We've had people transport things with them. We've had people use them for, transporting aid and stuff and just various things like that. It's kind of a workhorse plane. Definitely looks more like a drone, though. Has the pod attachment on the nose, allows you to put a camera like a GoPro up there if you want. Has some mounting points if you want to mount something else up there. It comes with some
steerable front gear. Is that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, it's fully steerable front gear, very heavily built, a very strong build. Can fly, longer distances if you want to. We have a 4S and a 6S set up for that one. Before the rules started getting more strict, because this plane has been around a while. I mean, we've flown to awfully high altitudes with this plane and awfully long distances, but don't do that anymore once they got a little bit more strict with the rules. But it's a very capable plane, and I think we found that a lot of colleges and schools like to use this too because of having landing gear and stuff.
Can you pull down a little bit? I want to see what the payload is on this, what the maximum weight is. All right.
I don't know that we said max. It's one of those questions. Is a lot of planes, you can keep adding weight as long as you add speed, right? Obviously there's a limit there, but I would say I've seen people put over 5 pounds of extra on top of the batteries. When we were flying it on 4S, we were using two 5,200 4S in parallel. And now that we have the 6S set up, we have like a 12,000 6S that we would recommend, but it'll hold way more than that. I mean, that actually puts that weight up in the nose, and it's got space underneath the wings to mount to put stuff. So
it has a 2826 860 kV motor. So that with a 13
that's for the 4S, yeah.
For a 13-inch prop.
Yeah.
Or is it it could do 6S with a 13-inch prop?
If you scroll down a little bit more, you can see our 6S setup is a lower kV motor, 500 kV. It's a small-ish motor, but it's plenty. It actually only pulls about 35 amps with the 13 by 8 in that case with 6S. And that thing will pop off the ground. If you don't have anything other than the battery and the basics in it, you can get that thing off the ground in 5-10 meters easily with that even with that much weight in it. With the battery, large battery in it. So
does it have flaps or
the flaps are out? Okay, so I wish I don't know if I wish I had a video to show real. So because of you have the poles going back for the rear rudder vader. We actually wound up doing something with the space for flaps kind of on the inside was really small, and we really wanted something to be able to slow it down. You can kind of see it in that picture. It actually has, I don't know if it's the only RC plane, but if there are, I don't know of others. It actually has leading edge slats on it as well. So when you drop the flaps, the front edge of the wing will also drop down. We should have had a better picture of that in there to show it.
Okay, but yeah, that's
you can see it. You can see it a little bit here in that video thumbnail.
Yeah. Yep. So, and they're essentially a cutout. So when you get it, yeah, the leading edge essentially will drop down, and then with the flaps coming down in the back, you actually kind of like an airliner will get a much larger airfoil, and it helps
play
to slow
that
it
video.
down.
Let's see what this does.
The one down lower.
The one down is this one or the one down lower is we should be looking at.
I don't know if I can't remember if RC Group set up you can see them that cut into the wing there. That didn't look like they cut them out. They're by default they're stationary. You just have to cut out a couple little blocks of foam that hold them in place, and then add the hardware.
So what's the cruising speed on this thing? Is this like you have to maintain a pretty fast speed? Looks like
I would say you can, depending on how it's loaded, you can cruise. Sorry, going to use our measurements again. About 35, 40 is pretty decent cruise speed. You can definitely go faster. If you hit about 90, you're going to start to get a little oscillation. We got to watch with the tail. But you're not. This is not a plane designed to fly 90 miles an hour. So
will it do 90 with that 2826 motor?
I mean, in a dive, not low.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
we found out in a dive we accidentally went over 90, well over 90. Didn't realize we were running low on battery and pushed the nose down from pretty high altitude and started to shudder a little bit and realized we were getting around 100 plus miles an hour. So, whoops. Yeah, it's. Yeah, we need to put out a video, I guess, showing those slats, because anytime anyone sees that in person, they're like, "What? I've never seen that in an RC plane before." I don't remember if that other video shows it better. That was further down. I'm actually looking on my computer here real quick because we made these videos quite a while ago. Let me turn that down.
Yeah, I haven't seen this plane in stock in many years.
No, yeah, it was out for a while. The thing we've always run into is some of these types of planes have you can see a little bit. You can see them down a little bit.
Yeah.
All these have minimum order quantities, and although this plane sells well, it doesn't sell fast. And especially with pandemic related stuff, it was tough to put that much into a large batch of these things. So we were able to do it this time around, though. So.
Have you seen these in stock right now?
Yeah, these are in stock. Yeah, we actually have it. That's kind of how we feel. We actually have them in stock.
Have you seen anyone convert one to a VTOL with like 4 motors?
Yes. I know that years ago someone did a Pixhawk conversion. I'm not sure I've seen an INAV conversion yet. It's been a while. They basically extended the carbon fiber forward. It's got a kind of a unique mounting for that tail. The carbon fiber inserts in and has the essentially headphone jacks that plug in when you push it in. So you can take that whole tail off. You just have to loosen 4 kind of clamps on there. So if you're going to do that conversion, you got to bypass that, and make you run your wires separately for your tail. But it has been done. It would actually be a pretty neat, since especially with like the VTOL board from Maytag and stuff, that would be a neat conversion.
Yeah, exactly. With those twin booms, it's already got the mounting points for 2 of the 4 motors. So,
yeah, definitely have seen it. We had considered making a kit. We started going down that path, and then just one of those things that fell by the wayside. Since it changes fundamentally how that carbon fiber mounts, it was a little bit bigger deal. But it can be done, definitely.
I'm thinking about this for a project. There's something I have in mind for this plane. This would be kind of perfect. I'll talk to you about that offline, Tim. But
Okay.
this thing is, this is this is interesting because this has been out for so many years. This completely came off the radar, but now that's back. It's really compelling, especially in today's age where this is something that you can really load up with batteries. So you can make your own lithium ion packs, load this thing up, and take this out quite a distance, more so than the FAA would like to know about. But it looks like if you're looking for a really good ultimate long range FPV platform, something in the same spirit as the Sky Hunter, this would probably be it.
Yeah, this is a little bit heavier duty than the Sky Hunter, but kind of similar look. That we need to, for some reason, we didn't put all the pictures in that Choose Your Electronics version. If you look on the right side, the Anaconda kit has a lot more pictures in it of the plane. We need to transfer over. Kind of shows the interior a little bit more, the mounting spaces for cameras and stuff.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Here
you can see
also
there,
see the slats.
Yeah, so
what do you think about that tail?
They're actually mechanically linked to the flaps as well.
Yeah, it's the exact. Yep, same servo that does the flaps does the leading edge slats. Yeah, exactly. And it really does. You can slow that plane down really well with that. Stays very stable. The wing design works well for that. Even when you start getting down to slower speeds, still stays very stable. And with the V, if you're not, once you get that set, it gives a kind of a different flying experience too, but still has good rudder control and so forth.
Darren, have you ever seen a tail like that before, or worked with one of those before?
I've seen one, but not flown one. I can't remember what the plane was called, but there was one similar to the
look at that
Nano Sky Hunter.
Look at the size of that. That looks like you could put a football in there.
Yeah, those
American football. Yeah,
those battery packs that you can fit in there are huge. Yeah, it's.
But by the way, regarding VTOL, what I would do, I wouldn't install 4 motors on that one. I would install basically a third motor here on the back and make a tricopter.
You can do that, but there are advantages to both.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice having a true quad as well. None of the complicated tilt mechanisms and that kind of thing.
You have to tilt 2 motors at least anyway. So
why do you have to tilt 2 motors at least?
Yeah, if you have a quad motor.
No, because you can just leave the 5th motor on it as well.
Okay, but then you have to even more drag and even carry more stuff with you. So
it's whether you want complexity or lighter weight. Obviously, I have both, so they both work. Just what you want for what.
It's one of those things, sometimes people want to mess with that. I don't know. Yeah, you definitely have more weight, more drag, but with 4 motors on there on the carbon fiber spar. But so yeah, it's like I said, we seem to get a lot of interest in colleges and companies that are doing maybe some work overseas. This is a good project for people in Ukraine, possibly occasionally. To be able to, So
we can't talk about that.
yeah. This and some 1.3 gigahertz gear could really do a lot to help see some things. So,
I go into places that I'm not really allowed to talk about, but I've seen planes similar to this being used in professional applications. So yeah, this is a hell of a format. I
don't know, Steve. It really sounds like you just said everything. You didn't leave much to the imagination.
I will say we certainly have there are a few companies that are using this in commercial applications too. Definitely. We actually slightly modified the mold with this batch because of that, because previously the ready-made RC logo was molded right into the side of the fuselage, but because a few companies want to do some other things with it, we've had that machined out of the mold, so they can brand it how they want to brand it.
What's the wingspan on this?
Hold on. I don't remember now.
Let's go down a little further.
Say in here.
2 meter
1.4,
and 6.
yeah. Or yeah, 2.6. Sorry, I was the length. Yeah, it's just over
2.06, yeah.
2.06.
Yeah.
2.06. That's a good size wingspan. That's larger than the Sky Hunter too. The Sky Hunter's 1,800. This is 2,000.
Yeah,
so
this is a lot heavier plane. You know, the Sky Hunter you're going to belly land. This one, even if you took landing gear off, you're not going to want to belly land this one. It's just not meant for that. You know, it was never designed for that. Always designed to use landing gear. And
is it the landing gear screwed into wood in the bottom of the fuselage?
Yeah, in the back there's a kind of a wood sandwich inside and outside the foam, and then on the front it's got a large plastic molded section that's kind of glued up into the foam that holds the servo and the steering assembly and everything.
Are these 9-gram servos or the larger servos?
They're larger. Let's see. Trying to remember now. It has two sizes. It uses 27 gram, and that would be the. Trying to remember where that steering is the larger one, and I believe I believe it's the main ailerons are the larger servo, and then the 17 gram for the tail.
Okay.
Yeah. Larger
servos, so standard size servos, probably
getting close to standard. They're not quite full size servos, but 27 grams are getting a little bit bigger. They're the ES 9258s if you use the Emax for the larger servos.
That's a really neat format right there. Really impressed, you know, and it has a real simple landing gear on there too, and you have the landing gear for sale as well in case.
Yeah, we actually have a taller landing gear, a separate, just in a kit to make it a little bit taller for people that are carrying things underneath it, because it does do that well as well. So.
Yeah, because now we're starting to get like with HD0 and with the DJI, we're starting to get planes that FPV gear where we can go out quite a distance, and you know, so then all of a sudden you want to have big battery packs to go the distance, and if we could build one of these planes, so this looks like a much better option to me than the Sky Hunter. Sky Hunter always seems to be kind of not. I mean, the people who love that plane, but I always felt like the foam wasn't really that great on that plane.
It's a really lightweight plane, but it's really versatile. I do like the Sky Hunter, but it's kind of a different plane. You know, it's like you said, it's a much less dense foam. I guess it's just, and it's not built as structurally strong. Got a little bit more wiggle to it, but it's, you know, we carry those too, and it's definitely got a place as well. The Anaconda has more room inside, you know, because of the length of that fuselage.
Looks like you possibly can mount a DSLR on there too and get some incredible videos with that. Or
I've seen people do that. Yeah. We kind of have marked on the bottom right under the CG kind of a square that's just recessed in the foam that kind of gives you a target if you want to cut an opening in the bottom, and then people will mount equipment kind of up inside and let it hang down, or even have seen a few people put things that will drop down once you're up in the air.
The thing about, you know, that was originally one of the main reasons why I got back into this hobby, was because I wanted to get an FPV plane that could do video and photos and things like that. And the problem is a lot of these smaller planes just really cannot accommodate quality photographic gear. You need something big and sturdy, something like this, to work with it.
Yeah, you know, there's you know, we've seen people mount thermal cameras under there, you know, with zoom, not just a basic thermal, but, you know, some of the zoom thermal cameras and stuff like that. I mean, this really does start to feel, you can make it more like a traditional, like, actual drone.
I think it's also pretty perfect to mount stuff like this one under it. I'm still trying to get this working with INAV with Espos for right now, and hopefully we get it implemented through UART control from Pavel after I am finished with it.
What is that?
What was that? Yeah,
that's the CE8A8 mini gimbal. It's 4K recording. It's basically like the size of a GoPro, the front size of a GoPro, and complete 4K recording. A lot of features, different follow modes like FPV mode, lock mode. You can remote control it with set angles or with speed, and yeah, it's a lot of stuff that this thing can do, but first I have to get it running.
Yep. We actually
with...
back in the early days, we were messing around with gimbal mounts on the nose, and I got a bit of a reputation for destroying them because the original landing gear, the shape of it allowed it to kind of compress a lot more when you landed, especially if you maybe didn't have a perfect landing, bounced a bit, which I may or may not have done a few times, and so the landing gear would compress and it would just shove the gimbal straight into the ground. We revised the nose gear to not. It gives forward to backward, but doesn't really give vertically as much, so it doesn't drop. So that was one of the reasons we specifically put a actual mounting structure on the front for things like gimbals like that. Kind of just notches right in, but that looks pretty nice. I would, if you get that working, I'd really like to know more about that gimbal you got.
So you say you get that to work with F-Bus?
S-Bus.
Oh, S-Bus. Okay.
It's working on S-Bus, yeah. So this is the A8 from CE. It was just released now in December.
Wow.
With 4K recording. The price is actually pretty good in my opinion. If you consider what it records and the video quality, I just used it inside right now. Looks pretty decent. I mean, it's comparable with the higher mid-range action camera. But you get a full
$2,800, so $287. That's a really good price for that. What you get?
Yeah, $287 is not bad. And I think for planes where you don't. Oh, by the way, it also has an option to be used basically upright, so you can even put it on top of a airframe if you want. And there's also another one that's the A2 Mini that's not released yet. It has only 1080p recording, and it's only one axis stabilized, but that's basically made for fixed wing craft. Because it's also airflow protected, landing protected with these covers. And yeah, you can use it for that. And I think the good thing on this on these gimbals is, especially on this one, I'm not sure about the A2 right now, it has an analog video output with a pretty low latency. It's visible.
Their digital system is pretty impressive, actually. We've been talking to them recently.
Yeah. So yeah, this one basically can do everything. It has an mini HDMI out, so it could be used, for example, with OpenHD with the capture card, or with the capture dongle for HDMI. It can be used with their HD digital system over network output, and it can also be used with analog systems.
Wow, that's pretty
nice.
Bucks.
I'm going to be looking even closer into them now.
So that's it. So it stabilizes the pitch axis, then, looks like.
This one, the A2 only stabilizes pitch, exactly, and the A8 has 3-axis stabilization.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's insane. That's beautiful.
They also just released a brand new one. Wait a second, but you don't want to put that on a DIY self-made craft. Wait a second. This is the old Z. Yeah, this is the new one, the ZR30. But wait a second. It's not on the English speaking website yet. So 4K recording, I think it has a 30 times optical zoom included. And I think the price is around $1,000.
That's Mark Hoffman kind of money right there.
Nah, not really. So yeah, this one.
He says that, but let's see when he gets it one, right?
Nah. I definitely won't buy one. That's out of my budget.
Right? Yeah. Gotta do testing.
Yeah.
My God, that's insane. I mean, we look at it. Some of these I looked at the optical quality of just a simple lens. What are those M12 lenses that come on like some of the run cams, and the resolution that these things have and the optical quality and everything else, pretty insane for what you get. I mean, with these little simple analog FPV cameras were doing. So something like this with what looks like they have custom lenses, you know, for $100, that's insane. That is a really good price for that. That's the price of a RunCam 4, right? If you think about it.
Yeah, it's more the price of a KDX Walnut, but yeah, here you get a full gimbal in reverse.
And when you're talking about 1080p, if we're talking about quality 1080p versus, I mean, the thing now is we're pushing the 4K, but if you have low resolution optics, even though you're getting 4K, you're not going to get really good quality. If you get a really good quality 1080p, you'll see a difference in your video. So I'm really interested to see what this comes out looking like. You have yours is the one you're playing with is a 4K one.
The A8 is 4K capable, but only at 25 frames per second, and 2.7K and 1080p at 30 frames per second. So yeah, this will be interesting to see the actual difference.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we're coming up to the break time right now. Let's hit 3 minutes and let's come back and regroup, and let's get on for the rest of all the interesting things that Tim has in his product offering. So we'll catch you on the other side here, guys. Hey everybody, we're back. Oh my gosh, that was I see Tim just dropping into. He went to the restroom, came right back.
Yeah,
such a professional. I love it. So we've actually during break we brought up like 5 topics we should talk about. So we'll get to that. I want to just briefly go over the rest of your lines just so people know what you've got. So Mark, we drop right back in and see what else they have. We'll make this somewhat brief. But the one thing that we should talk about is at one point you had what was called the Ready-Made RC Recruit, which was essentially the AR wing from Sonic Models, right? Mm-hmm. And that one was, you were kind of, when we talked about it the first time, you were like, I want to sell it all as one kit and something that's put together so people can buy it and fly it type of thing.
Yeah, it's the problem that we ran into, the Recruit. It basically is, it was an AR wing with a custom little mini flight controller. The problem is the people that were making that flight controller do not allow us to touch any of the settings. They gave us no way to actually, I don't even know what they were basing their controller off of. And they kind of continually became more and more difficult to work with, to the point that we couldn't even get the controllers anymore. They were nice, super inexpensive controllers that helped us, to make it. So we do carry the AR wing. What we really need to do is come up with just an inexpensive INAV setup, essentially, that even if they're not even using OSD or any of the other flight control aspects, just have basic like stabilization, launch mode type thing. We actually would love to do that again, because that was really what people loved about the Recruit, was it just, you could just toss it and it just, you launch it without even thinking about it.
Since you brought that up, I mean, there's essentially Adam RC came out with something called the Swordfish, and that came out like a couple months ago, maybe a month or two ago. And that one had a Adam RC flight controller in there, which was, you could put autopilot or INAV on there. And with that, it was kind of, I don't know, when you do that, sometimes it's hit or miss. They had horrible settings. It was somewhat set up and not exactly set up.
Right.
But it became the darling of, right around Christmas time. Everyone was getting them and like, oh my gosh, these are great. So, we do have on our INAV Fixed Wing group, we do have probably 4 different builds of the Sonic model AR 900 millimeter, the standard one. Mm-hmm. And I think we even have the AR Pro on there as well. Some basic setups. So, this is something that you can put a variety of flight controllers. And once you start putting flight controllers into the plane itself and is starting to solder them and do things like that, it gets pretty expensive and very time consuming.
Yeah, that was one of the things we liked about the Recruit before, is that it wasn't the problem was you couldn't do anything with the flight controller, other than use it as it is. It wasn't designed to be like INAV or any of these others where you could you go in and plug it into other components or even GPS or anything else. It was just there as a basic flight stabilizer. Now we kind of are leaning in towards, pushing people again to do kind of the DIY setup, with guides that you guys have or similar things where they can build it up themselves, and they learn a little bit more about it as well while they're doing it. So,
Yeah, that's it. Because I always notice that if you start putting quality merchandise in there, the price goes up and people get scared about that first and foremost. So what you end up getting a lot of the time is just kind of, the cheapest of everything, but it's an INAV plane. And this isn't usually, well, maybe if it's going to be destined to be crashed anyways, then it's not such a bad deal. But if it's something you're going to keep for a while, that's not a good route to go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You want quality stuff in it. I do. I've gone through my own builds in the past of going the cheapest route possible, and I get kind of tired of dealing with, sketchy components and everything else like that. So, I would just want to fly and know my stuff's going to work.
Yeah, I used to be all about the sketchy components until I met Mark Hoffman, and then he told me, he was like, "What are you doing with that? You will not use that. Those are the Racer Star motors are the worst motors in the world." So I had to sell them all off and get better stuff. So this guy, okay, Derek, say something.
That's just for Mark. It's nice racer style motor for
Yeah, Racer Star BR series, like burn right now.
You know what? It's fine if a magnet or two falls out. You don't need all of them.
Fantastic. Okay, so aside from the Recruit, now just AR Wing, what else do we have in your collection? Have we missed any of the Strix planes?
I think we covered all the Strix. Lots of the typical, the Talon 250. I'm just literally just going to look down the list now. Skyhunter, AR Wing, Classic, Kit, and PNP, which their PNP is actually what I would call an ARF. It comes with all the stuff, but it's not installed. The Dart XL Extreme. How long are they going to make these names? Dart XL Extreme Enhanced. Talon GT. The AR Wing Pro kit. I don't think we did plug and plays because I don't think people like their plug and plays quite as much. So we didn't do plug and plays this time around. Like we mentioned, Skywalker, the Drift. We have plug and play, the Zod Drift. The Dart. We have a ton of their binaries, which is a decent. It's a kit, but it's a good flying twin with landing gear. You can belly land that one as well. They sent us a bunch of extras of that. So
they really seem to have stopped production of the AR Pro plug and play version. I mean, I see them listed in many stores, but they are always out of stock. So you can barely buy them anywhere. Only the kits, and the kits are
They're
available.
in stock on Banggood at the moment.
Yeah.
Really, the plug and play version?
Yep.
Oh, that's impressive.
Based on some feedback from users, which one of the reasons we didn't get the plug and play is that it seemed that people weren't as impressed with the plug and play on that one. So that probably has an effect on some of the other people stocking them as well.
I mean, the only thing I can complain about the plug and play version is actually the motor that could be a little bit more powerful for fun flying. But beside that, I mean, the servos are great. The ESC is reliable. I still use the stock PNP setup from my first one, now on my third airframe.
There you go.
Wait, there were a couple different ones. There was the black one, which is the original one you're talking about, Mark, and then there was
it's the same
Ishin white one.
Okay, that's a different story. Yeah, there was the Ishin AR Wing Pro in white, and they really had the last piece of crap servos in there. The crappiest motor you can. I think it was even a quad motor, also a smaller one than the stock one. And some no-name brand ESC, I think only rated to 30 amps or 25 amps or so. It was really a nightmare. So you really shouldn't get the Ishin plug-and-play version. If you get the kit version from Ishin, totally fine. The foam is not as durable, I think, as the black one. But besides
it's
that,
not as durable, but it is a bit lighter. So
yeah,
it's less dense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less dense.
So it could fly with those the quad motors. Yeah, the little,
maybe with the smaller battery.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a tactic we've used on some things to keep them light, because quad motors, you get the good quality ones and they perform really well and they're usually very lightweight. But yeah, they tend to go. They're all about budget, right? Normally not my thing most of the time with theirs. I've not had great results. So
the Papa Noob in the chat is given the example the binary, the binary.
Yeah, binary. Yeah. Binary.
I hope you don't have any of those.
There are a lot of people out there hating on the binary, that it's unflyable and tip stalling like crazy and stuff.
We actually got sent a bunch of extra of those other than what we ordered, so we've got a ton of them. But yeah, we've run into that too. You got to fly that plane fast, or you're gonna stall it and have a bad day. So
I think the main problem still is with that plane. I wouldn't say pilot error, maybe a documentation failure. You just, as soon as you put a little bit too much elevator in it, it will tip stall, no matter the speed. And that's the mistake most people do. They just put too much elevator throw in that, and as soon as the plane maybe stalls or so and tips over, they go full stick back, and of course you cannot pull it out of the stall. You just stall again. So you have to be careful with that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it got a bit of a bad reputation. Yeah, and in my opinion, it's still a nice plane. I don't have it myself, but if you know how to fly it and how to set it up, I bet it's a really nice flyer.
It is. It is interesting that we run into that sometimes, where a plane flown within its capabilities can be a really great plane, but we always tend to like. I think a lot of us like to push limits of aircraft, and some of them do not like those limits being pushed, and you will yeah, the stall characteristics of some of these, it will be, it's a catastrophic stall. And if our reaction is to keep, like you said, pulling back on the stick to try to pull its nose back up, it's done. You're never going to regain control of it. We've been spoiled by a lot of designs that stall well now. There's some planes that you can hold full back stick and it'll just, they'll gentle stall on you and still stay controllable. But yeah, planes like that, yeah, once it's in a stall, you gotta speed back up and stop pulling back on the stick and limit your elevator travel in the first place, I think, too.
Yeah.
I also had bad stall experience with the AR900, for example, in the past. With the CJE right on spot, just too much elevator, and the same happened. I did an auto tune. First, everything was fine, but then the feed forward ramped up using the full elevator travel, and suddenly when I pulled up, the plane just flipped over overhead and dove to the ground. So it can happen with most planes.
Yep.
If you want to have, I'm sorry, Steve. If you want to have a plane that doesn't stall, get a swept forward wing.
Right. Yeah.
There was like a couple years ago, we had a meeting with someone at Sonic Models who's no longer there, and he was like, it was late night for me, and these guys woke up early in the UK and Germany, and the guy, we started having a conversation with him, and he talked for about an hour straight. And so we couldn't get a word into edgewise. But one of the things he said was, my claim to fame is I invented the binary.
Womp womp.
Yeah, well, okay. So you'll have a blowout sale on the binary, sounds like, at some point in the future.
We might, yeah. Yeah, they literally shipped us those and basically said, we're going to give these to you when you sell them, then you can pay for them. So I think that, kind of
50 cents on the dollar is probably what you can sell. For a $50, $75 plane, it's probably not a bad little airframe or something like that. You've started to take in, I thought I saw you were starting to take OMP of some of the regular
planes. They didn't make it into this section because we've been carrying them for a little while and had, since OMP, Ohio Model Products, is, right here in Ohio, at least the distributor Buddy RC that we work with. We've had those in stock pretty regularly. We've got quite a few planes from them. They've got the nice their VTOL, the ZMO, which is quite a plane. There is a new version. One of the things I haven't liked about that is the flight controller that's included with the full plug and play is proprietary. You can't get in there and change anything. That is going to change with a future version. They're working on it right now. Just saw it the other day. That's pretty impressive plane just in how it's built, packaged, the whole deal. Comes with its own case. We've got that. We've got some planes from He-Wing that we carry as well that aren't on that specific page because of how we're buying them. They didn't come in on the containers with these other things. Definitely go to our airplane section and you'll see some more planes. We got Right Wing. We're out of stock of a few things, but I just talked to Chris this a couple days ago, and they should have something on the way to us here pretty soon. I
will say this, that you are not my account for FR Sky, but you will be getting FR Sky products back in stock because
you talked to Dustin. We were just talking about that. So putting in an order for that. Radios, Maytech, we have tried to do our best to keep all the Maytech stuff in stock. I don't know if that would segue to what we were talking about.
Before I wanted to ask you about FPV also. So we'll come back to this topic later. As far as I wanted to ask you what you think about FPV versus traditional flying, where FPV flying has gone, but let's get into the Maytech topic first of all, because you brought that up during break, and I thought that was kind of really important to bring up. We have 40 minutes left. Yeah. Well, yeah. Mark's like talking. You know,
How
Mark
much can we talk about?
Yeah. What? So you mentioned that Maytag is having issues getting the H743 microcontroller.
Yeah, when we were placing our last order, kind of came back that the 743 wings, which we had ordered, they are not producing right now. It sounds like it's going to be a temporary pause, and it's because the cost of the CPU, the chips, have increased drastically right now. The MCU. The price of the actual chip is almost—it's actually not over, but it's almost the price of the full flight controller right now. And I kind of asked, are you going to raise the price? What's the plan? And it sounds like they're hoping to just wait it out until the chip price drops back down again. So what that may do is cause a bit of a shortage for the 743 wing and the 743 mini for a little while. So just, I guess, keep that in mind.
I'm a little bit worried about that one because the H743, now if you remember our history, you might not go back this far, but when they first came out, the first version of the H743 wing, it was sold on Banggood. They were selling for like $40 for that.
Right.
And then people were buying them, and they wouldn't work with INAV. I think they worked with Autopilot first of all, but it wouldn't work with INAV. It took a while because the code base is different on that. Now, what I'm worried about is right now, all of a sudden, there's more and more applications where they're starting to write code for this. So I'm not talking about flight controllers. I'm talking about medical and automotive. And if they're starting to write for that, that means like the demand for this must be going up, because you can hook up to 32 different devices to that microcontroller. It is a really impressive microcontroller.
Yeah, and we've been seeing this with various the CPUs, MPUs for these. The supply has been kind of touch and go with pandemic related stuff. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is not only demand overall, but also because of the pandemic related stuff going on over in Asia right now and China, where they're just now dealing with the massive waves. It's slowed down production. We talked a little bit about this in the break. Our manufacturers have been, before whenever they had stronger lockdowns, they would get shut down because somebody in the general area tested positive, and they would just shut the whole region down. And then once they lifted their lockdowns, now just huge percentages of the employees at these places are getting sick. And it's taken them, and it is just disrupting the entire supply chain again.
Right. China is a huge country. I mean, and so the continent, just the landmass of China is immense. But so regionally, it's hard. But we just got the statistic the other day that about 60,000 people died in China in the last month for COVID, which is insane. A huge number of people. I mean, though more than 1 billion people live there. What happened?
Especially given a less dangerous variant of COVID, and it still killed that many people. So yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's mind-boggling. But what did happen was around Christmas time, we had just our corporate headquarters of FR Sky is located near Shanghai, and they had about 80% of the workforce out with COVID, right around like a week or two before Christmas. So the workforce was out, and then they started to come back, and then we're going into Chinese New Year's right now. So, you essentially have lost a month out of the year. And, I saw this, and I saw like Radio Master came out with that Ranger module for ELRS, and like people were writing like, I'm not getting my Ranger module. I ordered it, and I'm not getting it. I'm like, oh, I know what's going on. It's the same problem everywhere. But what happens is, the one thing that's really impressive about China, I didn't really realize this, when they go away for something like a holiday, or they go away for the Chinese New Year's, if they come back and the first day back when it's over is Saturday, you go back to work. Not only do you go back to work, but it's game on. Like, they turn up the factory and everything comes out as quickly as possible. So production wise, they can do stuff, but if we're having problems getting chips, that's another story altogether. Is there anything else that we're running out of as far as, vendors, you're dealing with your vendors? Are you having issues, supply chain issues with anything else?
For us directly, our main manufacturer that makes a lot of our custom electronics, just smaller items, voltage regulators, various, even like small, like the 1S chargers, just lots of our random things, cables and things like that. They've been the ones that have really been struggling, both with lockdowns and then now with COVID. So it's kind of put a damper on things. We're able to ship or will have been able to ship the majority of things we've been waiting for now, before the start of the Chinese New Year, which is coming up this coming week, the start of it. But that does cause, we've noticed Chinese New Year seems to really cause a longer disruption than the holiday itself too. Because one, you have some companies that stagger the dates that they actually use for the holiday. So it can cause 2 to 3 or 4 weeks of odd disruptions just from various companies trying to observe it slightly differently. But definitely most of them are basically this week, starting through the end of the month, are going to be off. And really things just shut down. Yeah.
The other thing I'm noticing too is that I've dealt with a number of buyers from different companies, and they're all saying pretty much the same thing. Right after Christmas, they say Chinese New Year's is coming up, and we have to get inventory orders placed right now before Chinese New Year's. So they'll put orders in for these things to get made. And then when they come back, then they have orders ready to go and things get produced. But if you happen to be waiting to place an order after Chinese New Year's, then you might be out a month or so.
Yeah, so it lengthens that queue that you wind up in. Yeah, exactly. So we try to as we can for ourselves stock up, but the disruptions from COVID have caused other issues with that too. So we'll see. It's better than it was late 2020. Where it just seemed like everything was just disappearing. I think this is a temporary one.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see is that, if you were to place your order today, you've got inventory in stock, obviously, and then you would get your orders to get shipped. But what you might find is that you would, if there's something odd, or if people wait until, let's say, April before they start building their planes, they might find that things are out of stock in some places because of Chinese New Year's. It takes about a month to recycle.
Mm-hmm. That seems about right. Yeah, definitely. And with the market now, if you're going to be buying something, get it now to make sure you're going to have it, because it's some of that's just hard to predict. What we were surprised about the 743, because those have been selling pretty well. And we've tried to get in our order that would be shipped right before the Chinese New Year, and surprise, we can't get any more of them for now. So When
we on the first time, we were talking about lead times. I recall, like, you order stuff and then it would take you, not only was it ungodly expensive, it would take 6 months to get off the boat.
Well, yeah, ocean shipments. You have long for the planes. We ordered the planes that we got in stock in the fall. We ordered those, actually had the orders moving in the spring or actually late winter of the year. And it took, until fall to get the items. On a positive note, ocean shipment prices have dropped drastically over the past couple months. Even the 3 separate containers that we got recently, the price dropped significantly from each one, because all the bigger companies were rushing early in the year to try to beat the normal later rush that you used to see getting, leading up to Christmas. Because everyone pushed so hard to get their stuff for Christmas early, things just, the freight, I guess the number of shipments coming from China just dropped drastically by, huge amounts as we went through, August, September, October timeframe. So that's going to be good. But yeah, you have, obviously there's different electronics generally can be manufactured more quickly, and then those are, can more economically be shipped by air. which then avoids some of that issue with the long shipping times with ocean.
Smaller electronics, things like
small
electronics. Yeah,
exactly. But things like planes have to go ocean because of the size, just going to cost way too much ship air. And those you have 4 to 6 weeks of transit time, and in addition to
California, it's 3.5 weeks from China, and we get this all the time. Sometimes in the 3 week, which is pretty good now. Probably as good as it's ever going to be. So yeah, it's looking a lot better, but still, there might be still some supply chain issues here and there, and so I would start stocking up. Harvest your winter nuts now, because
we tend to see a lot of people in the northern hemisphere start to do their builds anyway this time of year. For those that don't want to go outside in the weather, they're going to spend a little more time inside building, I think. So you see some demand for building components around this time of year. So with the demand starting to increase and potentially some supply issues temporarily, it's time to get your stuff.
Yeah, get it ordered now. The other thing that is going to be of interest is that coming up here in the next month, like Darren was talking about earlier, within a couple of weeks, we're going to have a cutoff point, and then INAV 6.0 is going to come out. And I have a feeling that this INAV 6.0, I think this is the INAV people have been waiting for. This is going to be something that is going to be where people can get their hands on INAV and get it to work. What do you think about that, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, my personal point of view is it's almost like an INAV reboot, if you like to look at movie terms. It's such a big game changer that I can't see any reason why anyone wouldn't update, unless they're using like an F3 or some ancient flight controller when they can't update to it.
Because like me, they're really, really lazy.
That's true.
I still have multiple planes on 2.1.
But you've got an excuse now to update more to 6. But yeah, no, I genuinely think, I've actually pushed forward a few sort of fairly big font, well, not big font changes, but font changes that will be significant on things like HD systems, just because the way I see it is 6.0 is so definitive that it will be the version that everyone sort of flies. So I've tried to push those.
It looks like the version that are going to bring people into INAV. Don't you think that people who are on the fence, or people who quad pilots who always want to get a plane, or people who are traditional plane pilots who always want to get into INAV?
I don't know if it would make any difference that way. I mean, I can see maybe if people are trying to get into it and are trying to argue pilot and find it too difficult, that now there's no real excuse not to try INAV, because the whole horizon drift is going to crash your plane is bullshit now. But yeah, that's the only. I can't see any real difference how it will pull new people in just for the sake of it being INAV 6. There's not really any real difference there. But
it's even easier now. My point is, every time you have a major something like this, people start talking about it, how great it is, and then their friends get pulled into it as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, the word of mouth. I mean, it is a very, very good release. There's no question about that.
I mean, there's also one thing many people won't even see. I mean, there are a few great new features. There are navigation system updates for better return to home, better waypoint missions. There are there is now finally building up a pattern how the HD systems, for example, work. They are properly supported now. Okay, let's keep aside DJI 03 for now.
That's not a proper HD system. It's a hack.
Okay. So we have Voxnay, we have DJI with WTF OS, we have HD0. INAV really is focusing on getting every single of these systems working as good as it can. So with the proper OSD restoring, with the proper OSD elements, the INAV developers, especially Darren, are working together with the manufacturers of the HD systems. Darren has a close contact to the Voxnay developers, is working with them on bug fixes, on optimizations, not only the OSD, also controls, I think. Maybe we will see more features here in the future. So there's a lot visible stuff going on with INAV, but also a lot of stuff under the hood the normal user will never see or is not interested in. For example, just take this hardware in the loop simulation. And this is even going a step further now with one developer working on a software in the loop, so on a complete software-based virtual flight controller running on your PC where you can test out stuff for development. So INAV 6 is not only bringing new features to the users, but also bringing new features and possibilities to future developers to even work further on it on future versions like 7.0, 8.0, and so on. So yeah, this update is even bigger as it seems from the outside.
So, Tim, I have a question for you about FPV as far as what you originally started off. You were on the forefront of FPV back in 2009, right? And when it was pretty much taking the nunchucks from the Wii's apart so you can get the gyros out of them and put them in planes. Yeah. And so what have you seen as far as FPV for fixed wing? I mean, feel like it's growing or you get stagnant or what's happening?
I'd say the one thing I've seen is the fragmentation because of these competing HD protocols and and then still people wanting to do analog as well. Makes it a little bit more difficult for us because we want to carry what people want, but we also don't want to get stuck with the product that people decided they don't want for various reasons. And there are, as we've talked about before, and you all know, there are very strong opinions in this hobby about what is and isn't the best thing, and why. And so we have seen a lot of fragmentation. We've seen definitely a move more towards HD across the board. And we see a variety from our standpoint. We see a variety of uses as well. We have the hobbyists that are bouncing back and forth between, HD0 and Walk Snail and DJI. And then we have some of the educational stuff that maybe wants some more advanced stuff. Even the CE, whatever, the things like that we're looking into they're not really, those are really long range, but you're not going to get people that need high speed connections using them. The latency is pretty good, but it's just not quite the same as these other systems. So it's definitely all over the place right now. And I would say the plane market is kind of making a bit of a comeback to some extent. We saw a huge shift to quads, especially, you go back 5, 6 years or so, 7 years. Quads just became the dominant force in anything involving FPV. But now we're seeing that kind of shift, I think, slowly back to a mixture. You're always going to have the quad folks and you're always going to have plane folks, but we're seeing planes kind of come back a little bit more. But definitely HD, we've seen a lot of people shifting to HD. But from our viewpoint, the frustration is, these manufacturers not including some level of backwards compatibility whenever they release goggles or other things, to the point that, well, okay, now if you want to get this specific system, now you're all in with that system, or now you have to carry, you have to keep multiple things, multiple goggles, multiple, across the board. So it'd be interesting to see how this all settles out over the next year or two. And I don't know, what are your guys' opinion about like who's winning that from your viewpoint, from the HD standpoint? I know that's a pretty
every week it's a different story.
It's a loaded question.
It was like 2 months ago we pronounced HD0 dead, and now they're back and stronger than ever.
I thought the same thing. I really did. Yeah.
And then go ahead, Mark.
I mean, when we look how Walk Snail started, I guess no one had thought that Walk Snail would ever get a foot into the hobby or into the market at all. I mean, the launch program they had was an absolute disaster. I mean, Rotor Riot completely messed it up. They had no information. There was this shady and partially false information going out. So they even faked the chip writing on the goggles, so no one knows what actual chip is used and all that shady stuff. And yes, I was one of these people bashing on them about that because I thought it's a joke, and if they don't go completely open to the community and communicate what they really do and what they want to do, they will fail on the market. But I'm really happy to say today that they got the corner. They changed a lot. They communicate now. They bring updates. They listen to the users. And in my opinion, right now, Cadix and Woxney, they have the best chance to win the race. I mean, there will never be a winner, I guess. I don't think that DJI will ever completely vanish from the market, or any of them will vanish for the market. HD0 has way too much attention, especially in the racing area, because of the latency. Every racer only flies basically analog or HD0 now, and HD0 has an even lower glass-to-glass latency than analog has, and that's pretty impressive. No, not glass-to-glass, but full-frame latency. Glass-to-glass is still, so for the first line, is still faster on analog, of course. But yeah, I think in the long term, I would put my bets on Woxney to become at least the biggest HD system on the market. They made a very aggressive move with their VRX release back in November, and that's also where I got mine from. So I ordered it right the first day when I saw that, because it was just a steal to get it for $200 VTX with the goggle module, and I can use it with my Sky Zones. I already used HD0 on my Sky Zones, so that was a pretty easy transfer. And yeah, so Woxney for me is on place 1. DJI will stay on the market on place 2. HD0 will stay on the market for racers and all the hardcore freestylers that need pinpoint precision and lowest latency. And I think analog will still stay around for a long time.
Yes.
Analog won't vanish. I mean, even after, how long is DJI on the market now? 3 years? Roughly, a little bit more over 3 years.
Yeah.
When they started. We still have, if you see any poll in Facebook groups or somewhere, we still have 50 or 60% of users who still use analog, either exclusively or at least partially. And especially for long range stuff, we don't have limitations like DJI and Woxney. Our goggles can only transmit 1.2 watt maximum, so we cannot have stronger VTX. Of course, HD0 could have a stronger VTX, but they are limited by their error correction, so they also have less range than a comparable analog system in open air. So I think for long range, analog will stay around for a lot more time. And I'm also pretty happy to see that there is still development going on for analog. The manufacturers condensed down to like 3 or 4 right now that are still producing analog stuff. But for example, SkyZone is now putting out their new SteadyView X module after more than a year of delay. I have one on the way to me with very nice new features. Funnily, one of these new features is a narrowband filter they implemented into their module that is filtering out RF interference from close-by channels. So basically, it's optimized to fly together with digital pilots where the goggles send out signals. So yeah, I'm happy to see there's still development going on, and analog will stay with us and with me for a very long time in the future as well.
So if you made it this far in the video watching us, the things you learned today are that analog is still around, and hold on to your F405 microcontroller flight controllers, because that's what you're going to have. This year is going to be 405 flight controllers and analog, but things are going to get better. But Darren has an opinion. I think he has something to say about this subject. Darren? You're muted, Darren. Okay.
Yeah, use analog. That's my opinion. No, I mean, I agree with Mark. It's like every system has their own advantages and disadvantages. HD0 is low latency for racing. DJI is for people, I don't know. I think these guys have caught up with DJI, certainly the original system, and surpassed it. Possibly there's a few things that the O3 is doing a bit better if you want an action cam built in, for example. But I've seen videos where this has got better penetration, better video than DJI.
That's
but analog still has its place, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing that SkyZone module actually that Mark was just talking about.
One addition, because I just saw that message from Caroline Tyler RC. Woxney is playing catch up with DJI's first hardware. O3 blows it out of the water picture-wise. Actually, no. Even from a completely objective standpoint, the O3 FPV feed is absolute garbage. It's absolute crap to fly.
I really wish you had an opinion on this.
I mean,
Mark is the unopinionated king. He just learns facts, nothing else.
This is rare to have Mark take an opinion on something.
I mean, just let's be realistic. What do we need when we fly? We need to see everything. We need to see in the dark, and need to see in the brightness. The O3 image, it looks great in the goggles, of course. It's a really fantastic picture. But it's not a picture you can really fly with. If you fly into a tunnel, for example, and the tunnel is completely black until you are inside, you don't know what's coming inside. And that's not what you need or what we want for FPV flying. If you have an analog camera, you always have turned on the HDR feature or the range compression. Wide dynamic range. The Woxney just updated their firmware in the latest beta to massively boost the dynamic range and make shadows brighter and bright. The sky is a little bit overblowing now, but that doesn't matter as soon as we can see what's happening on the ground. And I think that's a really important part. When you do a GoPro recording, sometimes you look a video on YouTube where someone flies in a bando, flies from outside to inside, and then you wonder, how could he even see that bar he just passed? He couldn't see that. Yeah, he could see that in the FPV feed, but you couldn't see that with an O3. So that's something you always have to keep in mind. The FPV feed doesn't need to look good. It has to be flyable, and that's the important part. And that's something where the O3 completely falls into the water.
Yeah, I go back to you talk about years ago with FPV, and we started, the cameras we were using did not have wide dynamic range initially. And when they started to come out, you were like, oh my God, I can actually see, because with the old analog cameras, you'd look at the sky and the ground was black. You just couldn't see anything, just to being out in the open, or the ground was invisible. The ground was visible, but the sky was just a bleached out white blob. And it's interesting that we're kind of going through that again with this, the evolution of these type of systems. And you're right. What people want to see for actual recordings, like if you're recording on a GoPro or something where you're gonna just looking at it for YouTube use or something like that, the picture is going to look a bit different than what we need to see when we're flying. That's a good point.
Yeah, and that's also a point where I think this won't change, because the O3 is a split camera, so it can only record one image. The sensor has to be set to specific settings, and it doesn't matter then if it's for the recording or for the FPV feed. The FPV feed will always look like the recording, and that was also an issue all the HD camera or the HD split analog cameras had. They always had too dark grounds, too dark shadows. They looked pretty decent afterwards, like action cam footage, like cheap action cam footage usually, but you barely can fly with them. I have, for example, a Runcam Split 3 on my Dart 250G, and I see that every time I fly with that plane. So the hybrid cameras with actual 2 sensors and 2 lenses, these were the options, the better options for any kind of onboard HD recording cameras, because then you have your FPV feed where you see everything, and you have your HD feed that just looks nice.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's what did I was going to ask you, Tim? So you also are now starting to sell planes for the flying field people, so the OMP planes, for example. That was that part of the original vision, or is that something that's changed over the last couple of years?
You know, on and off, we've carried planes like that. You know, we still kind of look at a plane and say a lot of it is going to be whether or not we would or could FPV it. But also sometimes it's just, hey, you know, would I fly this plane? Would I want to get it? So in the case of the OMP planes that we do carry, that are more traditional, a lot of those are just, you know, like, hey, I kind of like this plane, and, you know, we can get them since they're local. We don't have to buy massive quantities, which are a risk for us. So we'll bring those on, you know, because again, we enjoy all types of flying. We don't just do FPV ourselves too. So we'll look at things sometimes and just decide, you know, would I want that or not? Or sometimes we'll look at things that would maybe sell if we're going to an event, because things that will sell at a fly-in are a little different than what will sell through the website sometimes too. You know, so the OMP planes, even some of the Horizon Hobby planes, you know, don't sell well or in much volume through the website, but we take a couple to a show or event and they'll go pretty easily.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that I noticed was that on the cover of this, I just put it up right before the show. On the cover of the INAV Fixed Wing group, we have a photo I took of Black Star FPV, and these are a group of about 4 or 5 guys here in Southern California who go out to various flying shows. What they do is they fly these planes, EDS mainly, in formation, but they're FPV on them. So they're using DJI, and what they have is this little cockpit inside of there. It has LEDs, so they can see all their, you know, they can see their altitude, their airspeed, and things like that, and they communicate with each other. And so they're flying planes. They'll stop, get everyone down, and people will watch. And the people at the flying field, like the old timers, are like, "Wow, that is incredible." So the whole theory of that, you know, FPV is something that people are not interested in at the flying fields. That might have been true in the beginning, but not so much anymore. I think there's a lot of interest going on with it. And that's kind of why I'm hoping that what we might be seeing here towards the future is more and more people. Unfortunately, I don't really see the drone market growing right now, the race quad market. It's kind of, as you were mentioning earlier, it's gotten to a point, it grew, and then it's starting to contract right now and get smaller and smaller. And that was a fair bit of the people coming into the hobby from in the INAV Fixed Wing group. A lot of guys who started out with quads, you know, like, hey, my next quad should be a plane, and they get one, and the next thing you know, they're on to their 5th plane, and they're just loving it. But what I'm seeing right now is that DJI, once again, they tend to have something that I think attracts people who might want to get a quad. They have more and more compelling things. DJI FPV, it's drawing people in, and it's taking people away from the race quad segment of the business, which affects us as well. So we need to find people. I mean, if you're going to watch our segment grow, it's going to be growing for people who have an interest and probably have not had the opportunity to put together a flight controller for the first time. So, you know, that's the way I came in. I came in from the fixed wing side, and I didn't know how to solder to save my life. And so a bit of a learning curve. So I don't know if you're seeing that on your segment. Who's coming into the hobby now as far as FPV?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the big thing with quads is they have brought in a lot of people who maybe had no RC background or even technical background at all, because they see the quads like, wow, that's pretty awesome, and they want to get into it. So they will be completely green from the electronics standpoint, and obviously they need to learn a lot of these skills for quads. And then we start to see them shifting to planes, kind of what you had mentioned. Maybe I'll try that out. After they kind of, people, it seems to be some limit as to, sometimes you do something, even you're doing crazy stuff with the quad, but at some point you're still doing the same basic things, and then they want to try something else, and then we see them move into planes. I would say actually more early in this FPV arena, we had the folks like you, Steve, that came from just doing regular line of sight flying, traditional RC, and moving into FPV. The majority of the early FPV market was like that. And we still see it. And it's not that it's gone away, but I would say it shifted a bit. We had that real heavy, traditional RC folks going to FPV, and then this wave of quad people coming in to do that knew nothing about any RC. And I think that may have been partially what turned off some of the traditional RC guys, to be honest with you, because these people came in so green, not knowing even the basics of RC related stuff. I think it just bothered some of the people that have been doing it traditionally. But now we're getting at kind of steady state. We still have the young people coming in. They still tend to go to quads first, mostly. And then they're shifting over, and we're still seeing the stream of folks that did start with planes move into quads a little bit as well. I've moved back and forth. I started with planes, went to quads a little bit, and I still really like planes far more. So have stayed with mostly FPV planes. Some of the folks here, kind of the same thing. Some started with planes and drifted to quads for a while. Were really into it, did a lot of racing and stuff, and then have kind of settled back on planes again. I don't know. There's just differences in what you're doing, and some people. I just had a conversation with someone in here the other day, customer that came in and talking about how they don't really enjoy, when it comes to quads, the extreme level of competition. If a lot of these guys getting into racing and stuff, like it's just kind of, to them, they're never going to reach the level of some of these those guys that are just locked in with the racing, and so they're doing quads, but they're starting to drift into planes because it's just not the same. Plane guys are, there's plane racing going on, but it's not the same. It's just a different feel to it, and more relaxing, I guess, and more, the tech minded of us can settle in and just mess with that kind of stuff too, and not feel so much pressure to perform.
I also kind of noticed that in the quad segment, there's more of a tendency to comply with the norms of the hobby. People like, you should be using this equipment, and we're all going to this and that. Planes is pretty much bring what you got. We love you to put it in the air. We'll have a good time together.
Quads are very, the market is very dependent on what various social media folks are, popular YouTubers or TikTokers or whoever, they will follow trends very, very much so. Far more than the plane. It still happens with planes too, but they're, and maybe it's because they're, I would say, probably overall a younger crowd too, which maybe is some of that difference. Again, none of these are absolutes, but
right.
In general, yeah.
I've kind of noticed that planes is starting to be a little bit more of a communal thing. When we first started the group, I mean, you're lucky to have 3 people on your continent who flew INAV planes, but now it seems to be like you can find people in your area who are into FPV fixed wing planes, and so when you get together with these people, let's go out and let's have a good time. It's not about racing, but the people who do the racing, I've been to a quad race before. They're it is pretty much game on. You put your game face on. Let's go.
Yeah,
want to be the best.
I've seen a lot of, it's crazy how serious some of these people, when we had our own events in the past, and little things that just should be, maybe it's some technical issue or something, how incredibly serious these people took it. I mean, it's like it's what it's about for them, and that's fine. But I think, I'm more of if I'm going to an event or something, I often will spend less time flying and more time just hanging out with people at an event. We definitely do flying, but it's just, it's different. I'm not there to compete. I'm there to just talk with other people that have the same interests I do. So
yeah, we tend to have fun flies like coming up here in Mesa, Arizona, coming up the first weekend of next month. I'll be there at their flying field. Chris Click will be there as well. It's an electric fun fest, and so it's just people bringing their planes out in the field. If you're an AMA, it's an AMA field, so I think it's $25 for the weekend. You get to fly the whole time, and it's just bring what you got. Let's fly, and let's BS with each other about what you're flying. Whereas the quad races, when I've seen those guys, it's pretty. They don't talk to each other. They're like sitting there working on their quads, and it's game face, and it's a competitive event.
Very structured. They have their all the racing rounds that they've got to go through and everything. And yeah, it's definitely huge, different feel completely.
Yeah, it's cool. You want to be the best, but I don't know. I maybe Darren, you guys know. Was there anything like? Have you seen any events where people just kind of go out and fly with the quads, get together, and just tear up a bando?
Not so much over here. I mean, I was not really in that scene, but a friend of mine at the flying club I go to used to race quads, so they would all meet up fairly locally and have a sort of a race meet, and it's probably, I think it's a weekly thing, so they'd just turn up, set some gates up, and have a fly. So there was a nice social aspect with that.
And you think about that. I mean, now we're getting into the whoops, the tiny whoops. These things are incredibly small, and you can set up a quad race just about anywhere.
Yeah, I mean these were 5 inches. They weren't whoops. They were outdoors, 5 inches. But yeah, I guess the whoops you could stick them indoors. I can't fly indoors for toffee at the moment. I was going to say something else, but I won't. But yeah. I've got a little one that I really should try and practice a bit more with, but yeah, I'm still just getting the hang of it outdoors. Try not to crash it, but yeah, I mean, I think over here that there is that sort of a bit more a social aspect to it, but I was not there, so I don't know if there's all the clickiness that you see online.
Okay. So last topic before we call it a day, what are we looking forward to this year? Tim, Tim, we put you on the spot all the time, so I'll put Darren on the line this time. What do you think of we're looking forward to this year, other than INAV 6.0?
Flying more, hopefully. Yeah, I was actually just thinking what I need to get done. So yeah, I need to finish off my AR Pro so I can test out some digital stuff. I want to get my S800. I'm doing like a redneck race wing until I can get a decent one. So yeah, I need to get that finished and hopefully get to a couple of races this year. Yeah, I just want to get a lot more flying done.
Luke has probably checked out a while back. Luke, you hear us? Yeah,
I do hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to this year?
I don't have any particular goals at the moment. I really want to get a quad plane going, another one. I want to do my AR Wing Pro finally. That was last year's goal, but it's going to be this year's goal as well.
How many batteries?
Pardon?
How many batteries?
I've worked out it was 24. 24 batteries.
Oh, God.
Yeah, 24 18650s. That's 1.2 kilos of 18650s. Yeah,
It's going to have a huge motor on the back. Get that thing flying, right?
No, it doesn't need a huge motor. It's fine as is. I tested it recently. I flew an AR wing with a 4S5000 in, as standard, and I put a 6S5000 on top. So that's the equivalent of 24 18650 cells in weight, and a lot less drag without having the 6S5000 on top.
You didn't see this, but Mark's eyes just exploded.
I did see it. Yeah, what else do I want to do? Not sure. I'll see how it goes, I guess.
Mark, how about yourself? What are you looking forward to this year in 2023?
Yeah, for me, the interesting part will be my full start with digital. I tried with HD0 before, but my system never worked that way I wanted to, so it was collecting dust. I have around 5 or 6 planes. I might go for digital on them. And beside that, finding the time and mood to finally build up a proper workshop corner in my in my apartment, and of course, finding some more flight time and good weather, hopefully.
Okay. Tim, what about yourself? What are you looking forward to in 2023?
So, of course, everything that I look forward to is things I'm thinking about around the business here. But so we have a night wing that we had been working on a while back that we're kind of revising that I'd like to see out here by summertime. We'll definitely work with FPV, but is kind of more along the lines of a nice LED lit flying wing. So I would like to see that get finished. We have strangely enough, a flat foamy that we've been working on. That those are a little bit easier to get manufactured, don't require molds and so forth. That I'm kind of looking forward to, and then the project that I can't give any details on, other than the fact that we're working with Kevin that designed the Goblin and Nano Goblin. He's got something in the works, so that's that. And I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with the HD related stuff, and who's really, if there's going to be a clear winner. I kind of like Mark's general ideas about the rankings. I kind of feel the same way, but be interested to see if everyone else feels the same way as this year kind of moves through. I'm hoping that there's some settling in that area, because honestly, I'm still 100% analog for myself, and I haven't jumped on any of the others.
Me too.
I too have flown digital, but I've never bought a digital system, and until I see like a clear one that's going to continue into the future, I don't really plan to. I don't think
Yeah, I and that's the same thing. I've flown it and looked at it, used them, but for my own use, I'm still 100% analog. So,
but the problem is, I now like definitely wouldn't want a DJI system, and if I'd bought a grand's worth DJI system 2 years ago, I'd be pretty unhappy right now. For me, other people may be loving DJI still, but
right. Yep.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got my HD0 system, for example, last year in September. I installed it in one plane, but that never flew with it. Then I uninstalled it, so it's collecting dust since then. And I got the Walksnail stuff in December, and I still have not finished that plane where my first Walksnail VTX should go in. So I have 2 digital systems at home, and I have not flown one of them yet.
Well, at least I'm a bit further ahead than you. I've got the VTXs installed. Yeah.
At least in a proper plane.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to getting out around the United States this year for work, and when I get back, I've got a number of planes that I've been working on in the winter months here. That now it's been raining out, so I've got a few planes that'll be going up. I'm looking forward to flying that Stratosurfer at the beach more this year. That's an amazing plane. It's just really fantastic. I do thank you for it. So this is going to be a great year for FPV, and I'm looking forward to a lot of good times this year. Hopefully, when the weather improves for all of us, we can get out and fly more.
One big one that I do want to do this year is go over 200 miles an hour. So yeah, that's one goal. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Does it have to be on one of your planes you built? I mean,
I want the F1. I want to get that over 200 miles an hour, and then after that, go to a fun jet, which should be able to beat that easily.
I was gonna say, I mean, like, I don't know what it takes to fly turbines over there in the UK, but
a lot of money, which I don't have.
They came out with these foamy turbine jets now, which are some of the frames are like $400 for the foamies.
Oh, yeah, it's not the airframe cost, it's the engine cost for the turbines.
Yeah, it's like the cheapest one I found was about $1,600. So for about $2,000, $2,500, you can get yourself into a turbine, and you can hit that 250 mile per hour.
The problem is that's also a holiday. My wife would rather go on holiday.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. This was great having you.
it's great to have good news of all the planes in stock and stuff too. Because there for a while I felt like it was like, well, we're working on it. Well, we're trying to do it.
Yeah, I know. It's a different thing. I know in the problems you're facing right now seem pretty small compared to what they were a year ago as far as inventory issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a bit stressful a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're on to better times. Well, fantastic. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on Wing Talk. Let's all say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks for having me.